The distress call echoed through the endless dark of space, a faint whisper lost among billions of silent stars. It came from a dying world, a cry for help, desperate and fading. No one in the great galactic community answered. Not one of the ancient empires, not one of the proud alliances. They all heard it, yet they turned away. The planet was called Virella, once a peaceful cradle of art and song. Now it burned, cities shattered, oceans poisoned, its people scattered among the ashes. The invaders had come without warning. Ruthless machines known only as the Keth, beings of steel and black light, erasing every trace of life they found. For weeks, the survivors sent messages into the void. Pleading for aid, they offered knowledge. Rare minerals, anything. But the galaxy remained silent. The Council of Races debated behind their shining halls, weighing profit and risk, deciding that Virella was not worth the trouble, not worth war, not worth compassion, and so the signal drifted, past dead moons and ancient ruins, until one small blue planet caught it. Humanity heard the cry on Earth. Deep beneath the United Defense Command's main base, a group of officers and scientists gathered around a flickering holofeed. The voice was weak but clear. A child speaking in broken galactic common. Please, someone help us. For a long moment no one spoke. The room was filled with quiet disbelief. Then Admiral Rowan Hale stepped forward. A veteran of too many wars, his eyes hardened as he listened. No one's answering them? He asked. The AI interface confirmed. Negative, Admiral. All major factions have declined response probability of total extinction within 72 hours. Rowan exhaled slowly. 72 hours, he repeated. His gaze shifted to the holographic projection of the burning planet. Prepare Task Force Valkyrie, he said quietly. We're going. Across the galaxy, word spread fast. Humans were mobilizing. Fleets moved, engines flared, messages burst across comms. The other races watched in disbelief. Some mocked, some feared. Humans always play heroes, sneered a senator from the Traylon Republic. They'll die for strangers again. But humanity remembered. They remembered their own wars, their own centuries of silence when no one came to help them. They remembered being alone. The Valkyrie fleet left orbit 2 days later. Led by the flagship Dauntless, a colossal carrier bristling with railguns and plasma lances. Behind it flew destroyers, frigates, medships, and transports filled with soldiers and engineers. Men and women who had volunteered to save a people they'd never met. As the fleet entered warp, Lieutenant Cara Mendez stood by the observation deck, watching stars blur into streaks of light. Sir, she said softly to her commander, why us? Why always us? Commander Reeve looked at her, a half smile on his tired face. Because no one else will, he answered. When the humans arrived in Virella's orbit, the sight stunned even the most hardened soldiers. The planet looked dead, a black marble of ash and smoke. The scanners detected faint life signs in the northern hemisphere. Deep under a mountain range, Landing Team 1. Prepare, Reeve ordered. The dropships roared through the toxic clouds, lightning dancing around their hulls. Inside, soldiers sat in silence, their helmets reflecting red warning lights. Somewhere below, survivors waited, hope flickering after months of despair. As the first ship broke through the storm layer, Kara caught her breath. A massive Keth war machine loomed in the valley below, its limbs like towers tearing through the remnants of a city. The humans had walked straight into a battlefield. Contact. Hostiles ahead, shouted the pilot. Hold steady, Reeve commanded. We're not leaving them to die again. The ships dived through the chaos, plasma fire streaking the sky. For the first time since the call was sent, Virella's survivors looked up and saw something new. Hope. In the ruins of their world, a small girl pointed toward the heavens. They came, she whispered. The ones who heard us. The Dauntless's communication officer transmitted a message to all frequencies, a voice calm yet fierce. This is humanity's fleet. To the people of Virella, hold on, you are not alone anymore. And as the Keth turned their metal faces toward the human fleet, the first battle for the forgotten world began. The storm raged above Virella as the human dropships cut through the black clouds. Thunder rolled across the mountains, hiding the fire and death that waited below. The Keth war machines stood like metal gods, their eyes burning with cold blue light. Commander Reeve's voice echoed through the comms. We're not here to conquer, we're here to save, he said. Calm but sharp. Remember that, every one of you. The first human squad touched down among the ruins. their boots sinking into ash. Buildings lay shattered like bones, smoke curling through the cracks of fallen towers. Lieutenant Cara Mendez scanned the area, her heart heavy. "There were children here," she whispered, finding small toys buried under rubble. Suddenly, a blinding flash tore across the horizon. A Keth war engine turned its massive cannon toward the landing site. "Cover! Everyone take cover!" Reeve shouted. The soldiers scattered as the ground exploded, sending metal and flame into the air. For a moment it looked like the mission was doomed, but then the Dauntless entered low orbit. Its main cannons glowing with a thunderous roar, it unleashed a storm of plasma fire. The Keth war engine shuddered, cracked, and fell like a collapsing mountain. The humans cheered, but the celebration lasted only seconds. Dozens more machines appeared in the smoke, their steps shaking the ground. "Multiple targets inbound," reported Kara. "They're coming from all directions." "Then we fight from all directions," Reeve answered, loading his rifle. His tone carried the quiet defiance that had defined his species for centuries. High above the battlefield, the alien council watched through secret channels. In their floating cities, they whispered, "The humans are actually fighting the Keth?" For strangers, some laughed, others trembled. "They'll burn like the rest," a general sneered. But one alien, an elder named Theron of the Lyrians, spoke softly. "No," he said. "They won't. Humans are different. They remember what it means to suffer." Back on Virella, the humans dug in. Drones deployed shields. Engineers turned wreckage into barricades. Medics tended to wounded civilians. The survivors stared at them in disbelief. "You came for us," a mother said to Kara. Clutching her child, Kara nodded, smiling faintly. "We heard your voice. That was enough." Night fell. The stars above flickered through ash and cloud. The Keth surrounded them, their metallic voices humming through the dark. The humans stood shoulder to shoulder, rifles ready. Reeve opened a secure channel to the Dauntless. "We hold here," he said. "No retreat." The AI responded. "Understood, Commander. Orbital strike authorization pending." As the first wave of Keth surged forward, the ground shook like an earthquake. Plasma fire and energy beams crossed the sky, turning night into chaos. Human soldiers fought with desperate precision. Every shot counted, every movement disciplined. Kara took cover behind a broken wall, firing burst after burst into the advancing machines. Sparks and shrapnel rained down around her. "They just keep coming," she yelled. "Good," Reeve replied over comms. "Then we don't have to chase them." Suddenly, the mountain behind them erupted, revealing a massive Keth fortress buried beneath the surface. It was not just a base, it was the core hive, the heart of their invasion. Reeve stared at the towering structure, realization dawning. "They were never here to conquer Virella," he said. "They were building something." "What?" Kara asked, her voice trembling. Before he could answer, the ground opened, and a beam of dark energy shot into the sky, punching through the clouds for a brief second. Every sensor and ship in orbit went blind. On the Dauntless, alarms screamed. "Unknown energy signature detected," reported the AI. "Origin Keth Fortress. Power level rising exponentially." Admiral Rowan Hale clenched his fists. "They're not defending," he said. "They're awakening something." Down below, the air rippled with heat, and an enormous shadow began to rise from the crater. Something ancient, mechanical and alive. The soldiers froze, their helmets shaking from the pressure wave. Kara's voice cracked through the static. "Commander, what is that?" Reeve's eyes widened as the figure lifted from the molten pit, glowing with dark crimson light. "That," he whispered, "is why the galaxy stayed silent. The Keth weren't just machines. They were servants of something older, something that should have never awakened." And as the monster's gaze turned toward the human fleet, its voice filled every comm channel with a single word that no translator could fully render. "Return." The humans didn't understand it, but they felt it, a command, a threat, a warning. Reeve looked at his soldiers, his voice steady even as the ground shook. "No," he said quietly. "We came to help and we're not leaving." Above, the Dauntless armed its weapons once more. Humanity's defiance burned brighter than the fire of the stars. The sky above Virella split apart. Light and shadow twisted together as the ancient Keth construct rose higher. Its body was a mountain of black metal, its eyes burning like suns trapped behind glass. Every human on the ground stared upward, their weapons trembling in their hands. The air itself seemed alive, pulsing with an unnatural rhythm. The alien fortress that had once hidden underground now floated, feeding energy into the massive being. On the command bridge of the Dauntless, Admiral Rowan Hale stood motionless. "How large is it?" he asked. The AI replied in a tone that almost sounded afraid. 2 kilometers tall, Admiral. Energy output exceeds recorded limits." Rowan turned to his officers. "That thing isn't just a weapon," he said. "It's a relic." The creature's voice rolled across space, every syllable vibrating through metal and bone alike. It was speaking in a language that no system could decode, but every soldier felt it in their hearts. A message of dominance, of memory older than stars on the surface. Commander Reeve and Lieutenant Kara took cover behind a broken tower. "Sir," Kara said, "it's not attacking, it's watching us." Reeve nodded, his eyes locked on the massive being. "It knows we're not like the others," he said. "It's waiting to see what we'll do." Then the Keth swarmed again, hundreds of smaller machines pouring from the fissures in the ground. They moved with perfect coordination, like cells of a living organism. Reeve's voice rang out over the comms. "All units, fall back to the ridge. Hold the line until orbital support arrives." The soldiers moved quickly, firing bursts of plasma into the advancing horde. Explosions lit the valley like a storm of stars. Kara's armor was scorched, her breathing heavy, but she didn't stop. Far above, the alien council watched the unfolding chaos. Some demanded intervention, others wanted to flee. Theron of the Lyrians spoke again. "The humans do not retreat. Even before gods," he said quietly. "They remind me of something we have all forgotten. Courage. In the human fleet, engineers worked frantically. Admiral, the fortress is channeling energy from the planet's core," one shouted. "If it keeps rising, it will destroy everything in orbit." Rowan's jaw tightened. "Then we bring it down," he said. "Prepare the Dauntless for close-range bombardment." As the flagship descended through the clouds, lightning wrapped around its hull. The great cannons glowed brighter than the dawn. "Fire," Rowan commanded. Bolts of searing light tore through the sky and slammed into the ancient machine. The ground erupted in waves of molten fire. For a moment, it seemed to work. The creature staggered, its armor cracking, but then it looked up, and the heavens themselves seemed to recoil. The being raised one arm, and a sphere of darkness formed in its hand. "Evade." The AI screamed too late. The dark sphere struck the Dauntless's shield, tearing through it like paper. Alarms howled as the ship spun out of formation. Inside the chaos, Rowan gripped the command rail. "All power to stabilizers!" he shouted. The ship steadied, smoke filling the bridge. Reeve's voice came through the static. "Admiral, it's targeting you." Rowan smiled grimly. "Good," he said. "That means it sees us." On the surface, Kara led a small squad deeper into the ruins. Searching for survivors, they stumbled upon a large chamber, filled with ancient stone carvings and broken tech, symbols of the Keth before they became machines. "What is this place?" a soldier asked. Kara brushed dust from an inscription. The symbols glowed faintly under her touch. "It says..." "They were servants," she whispered. "Not gods, not rulers, servants to something called the Architects." Reeve joined them moments later. "Servants?" he repeated. "Then maybe they can be unbound." He looked up toward the massive being in the sky, its energy now flickering as if uncertain. "Maybe it remembers what it once was," he said. Outside, the battle reached its peak. Humanity fought with every ounce of strength. A few alien ships finally arrived, small, hesitant, but inspired. The sight of humans bleeding for strangers had shaken them. Together, they unleashed a combined strike. Plasma, ion, and kinetic fire raining upon the Colossus. The ancient being roared, its body cracking with lines of blue fire. Kara looked to Reeve. "It's weakening," she cried. Reeve raised his communicator. "Admiral, this is our chance. Hit it with everything." From orbit, the Dauntless turned its last functional cannon toward the monster's chest. "All batteries fire," Rowan ordered. The beam struck true, cutting through armor and energy shields. For a moment, silence filled the air. Then, the creature began to fall. It crashed into the mountains, shaking the planet to its core. The light faded, and for the first time in months, the sky cleared. The survivors emerged from their shelters, staring in awe at the human soldiers. The Keth forces retreated, their link to the fallen god broken. Kara dropped to her knees, exhausted but alive. "Did we win?" she whispered. Reeve looked toward the smoking crater. "For now," he said. "But something tells me this was only the beginning, And far away, across the stars, deep within the void, something else stirred, ancient and aware, listening to the echo of humanity's defiance. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy trembled, not from war but from realization. The humans had done what no empire dared. They had stood against an ancient machine god and lived across the stars. Old rulers and silent councils watched the footage spreading through hidden channels. Every world whispered the same word, a name that now carried weight: humanity. On the damaged bridge of the Dauntless, Admiral Rowan Hale leaned over the console, his uniform torn, smoke curling from shattered panels. "Report," he said quietly. "Minimal propulsion, shields offline, but—" "We're alive," answered the AI, its voice flickering through static. He smiled faintly. "Alive is good enough." Outside the viewport, the surface of Virella glowed with the faint light of dawn. Rescue teams moved among ruins, pulling survivors from collapsed shelters. Children waved to human soldiers, holding pieces of broken tech like trophies of hope. Commander Reeve stood beside Lieutenant Cara Mendez on the ridge where the God machine had fallen. Its massive frame now half buried in molten rock. "Looks like it's finally dead," Cara whispered. Reeve shook his head. "Machines don't die. They sleep," he said. "And sometimes they dream." Deep below the surface, fragments of the Keth construct still pulsed with dim red light. Inside its core, ancient circuits began rewriting themselves, forming strange patterns like words. The machine was not gone, it was remembering. Meanwhile, in the grand hall of the Galactic Council, chaos reigned. Diplomats shouted, leaders argued. "They acted without authorization," one cried. "Humans interfered in a restricted conflict." Another slammed a clawed hand against the table. "And yet they succeeded. You all turned your backs." Theron of the Lyrians rose slowly, his long silver robes glimmering under the chamber lights. "I watched," he said, his voice calm but powerful. "They did what we forgot how to do, show mercy." The room fell silent. On Earth, news of the victory spread like wildfire. Cities celebrated. Children painted stars on their walls. And for the first time in generations, humanity felt united again. But amid the cheers, there were questions. Who built the Keth? What was the name whispered by that dying god machine? In a quiet research bay aboard the Dauntless, Cara examined fragments recovered from the battlefield. Symbols and circuits unlike anything in known databases. "It's not alien," she murmured. "It's older." "Older than the galaxy's recorded history." Reeve entered, holding a data pad. "We intercepted a signal before the creature fell," he said. "It wasn't random, it was a location." Cara frowned. "Coordinates?" He nodded. "Far outside mapped space, somewhere in the dark between galaxies." They stared at the hologram, a single star blinking at the edge of the void. What if this wasn't the end? Cara whispered, "What if it was a warning?" Meanwhile, the remains of the Keth god twitched, one eye flickering to life for a heartbeat. Its voice, faint as wind through broken glass, whispered a single phrase into the ether. "The architects awaken." That signal rippled across the stars in ancient tomb worlds. Machines long asleep began to stir in forgotten nebulae. Hidden fleets activated silent beacons. The galaxy shuddered again, unaware that something vast had opened its eyes. Back aboard the Dauntless, Reeve looked at the endless dark beyond the window. "Admiral," he said quietly, "what do we do if this spreads?" Rowan didn't answer right away, his gaze distant. Finally, he said, "We do what we've always done, Commander." He turned toward the stars, the faint reflection of firelight in his eyes. "We face the dark, together, and somewhere, light years away, unseen by any living eye, a voice older than time whispered through the void. Then let it begin again." The stars stretched thin across the void as the human fleet drifted beyond charted space. No light, no signals, only darkness older than the galaxy itself. The Dauntless, still scarred from the battle at Virella, led the journey into the unknown. Every corridor hummed with quiet fear, every crew member feeling the weight of what they were chasing. Admiral Rowan Hale stood on the bridge, his gaze locked on the star map. One blinking point pulsed at the edge, the coordinates the fallen Keth had whispered. Lieutenant Cara Mendez joined him, her voice soft. "Sir, if these architects are real, what do we do?" Rowan smiled faintly. "We talk first," he said. "And if that fails, we remind them who we are." Hours passed. Then days. The void seemed endless, but suddenly the sensors came alive. A structure appeared ahead, massive, ancient, stretching across space like a ring made of starlight and shadow. The readings were impossible. Older than recorded time, larger than any world. The humans had found the forge of the architects. Is that a station? Kara whispered. No, said Commander Reeve, staring in awe. It's a graveyard that's still breathing. Energy fields pulsed across its surface, forming strange symbols, patterns that looked almost human. The fleet approached carefully. The silence was unnatural then, without warning. Every system froze, the lights dimmed, the air felt heavy. A voice echoed inside every mind, ancient and calm. You followed the echo, it said. You awaken what we buried. Rowan stepped forward. This is Admiral Rowan Hale of the United Human Fleet. We came because one of your creations tried to destroy a world. The voice replied, slow and endless. The Keth were sent to protect creation, not end it. They forgot their purpose. As all things do, Kara gritted her teeth. Then why stay silent? You could have stopped it. The voice hesitated. We slept to let the galaxy grow. We waited for a mind strong enough to resist despair. We waited for you. The crew exchanged glances. Disbelief mixing with dread, Reeve frowned. Us? Humanity? You remember struggle, the voice said. Pain forged you, not power. You carry the one thing that endures when empires fall, hope. As the words faded, light rippled across the forge, revealing hundreds of suspended forms. Machines, each larger than a city. The architects were not alive, not dead. They were merging thought with metal, becoming something beyond comprehension. Suddenly, alarms blared. The remains of the Keth god from Varela appeared on sensors. It was moving, drawn by the awakening signal, its broken body reforged in the dark. Admiral, Kara shouted, it's coming right at us. Rowan clenched his fists. All ships, defensive positions. The forge trembled. The ancient machine stirred. The voice spoke again. You are not ready for what follows, but you will be tested. Beams of light burst from the forge, striking the Keth war god, tearing it apart atom by atom. The explosion lit the void like a new sun. When the light faded, the forge began to collapse inward. Breaking apart into glowing fragments, the voice returned one last time, faint, echoing in their hearts. The galaxy turned its back, but you did not. You stood when others hid. The fire is yours now, carry it well. The Dauntless and the fleet barely escaped before the structure vanished. Leaving behind only silence, Kara looked out the viewport, her reflection faint against the stars. Do you think they're gone? She asked. Rowan shook his head slowly. No. They just passed the torch weeks later. Humanity sent out a message across the Galactic network. Simple and clear. To all who still believe in mercy, in courage, in unity. Stand with us, the darkness is not done. But neither are we, and somewhere, light years away, in the ruins of forgotten worlds, small blue beacons began to shine one by one. Species once silent now whispered the same vow. When humanity calls, we will answer. Because in the cold, endless galaxy, one truth now burned brighter than any star. When no one else stands, humanity does. The end.